Hi everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Diagnose Dan. Today we are working on a 2013 BMW 3 Series. The customer complained, and the complaint has been there for over a year now, is that every once in a while all kind of messages start to show up in the dash, and this car comes with a lot of paperwork. He took pictures of everything, because this customer is really fed up with this problem. Now, every once in a while, these messages start appearing on the dash, then the transmission goes into failsafe, the car doesn't really want to drive anymore, he sets the car on the side of the road, he lets it cool down for half an hour, and all problems disappear as snow to the sun. Now this is the original email the customer sent me, and it must be over 10 pages thick. This is really a crazy story. This problem has been ongoing for over a year now. In that 1 year period, the car must have been to like 6 different workshops. It has been to a BMW dealership, a BMW specialist, multiple transmission specialists, a friend tried to diagnose the car, and over 3,000 euros worth of parts were replaced. The DPF has been replaced, a temperature sensor has been replaced, a battery has been replaced, the car had a software update, and nothing solved this man's problems. Now, one transmission specialist told him there was nothing wrong with the transmission, and another specialist told him there might be something wrong with the transmission's computer, and he wanted to replace it, but he couldn't guarantee his problem would be solved after replacing the computer. Now, this would add a couple of thousand to the bill, so the customer opted not to do it and get a second opinion. He sent me this mail and he asked me, Dan, are you willing to take a look? And we're going to do so, and we're gonna do it together. Now, this is the car that's giving its owner a headache. Now, as always, we're gonna start with scanning the car first, and based upon what codes are stored, we're going to determine our next step. Yeah. Let's see. Oh man, I'm getting too old for this. It's in. In this video, we're going to use the Autel Mk808 Bluetooth. At first, I was a little bit skeptical about this tool. Why? Because it is dirt cheap. It is well under $500 US, and that's cheap for a machine that apparently does 90% of what its big brothers do. Now, I've been working with it for quite a while now, and I've noticed, besides from having no bi-directional controls, this seems to be a well-balanced machine. Now, let's see if this little machine can help us diagnose a fault that 6 other shops couldn't. Now, it did auto ID this BMW, so let's go to diagnostics and do a quick scan. Now, as you can see, this thing is fast, real fast. Done. Now let's start out by reading the fault code stored in the engine computer. Now hopefully there are fault codes stored in there that can help us determine our diagnostic path or our next step. Now as you can see, there are quite some intermittent fault codes stored. And let's see, they all seem to have something to do with the transmission not communicating. This one, for instance, it says no message, receiver engine computer, transmitter, transmission computer. We also have a powertrain CAN-bus 2 communication fault. Now let's go into the transmission itself and let's see if we can communicate with it. It looks like we can. And again, a lot of intermittent fault codes stored, again with communication failures. And this fault code we also had stored inside the PCM. Again, powertrain CAN-bus 2 communication fault. Now let's see if we can clear the fault codes within the transmission control unit. Now before we clear the fault codes, we always want to make a backup of the codes that are in there right now. Because if those codes don't return, we basically are chasing a ghost. Now, although you can store these codes within the machine itself, I always like to take a picture with my mobile phone because I always carry it with me. When I want to look something up, I have the information right in my pocket. Now let's see if we can clear the codes, erase codes, and let's see what comes back. As you can see, there are no fault codes stored within the transmission control unit right now. I've been going through these codes and a lot of control modules are reporting communication faults. Now, if I don't know what direction to take, I always see if there's something they have in common. Now, there are 3 control modules with a common fault. The gear selector switch, which is not connected to the transmission with a cable, but it's basically drive-by-wire, the engine computer, and the transmission control module are all reading powertrain CAN 2 communication faults. Now this car is equipped with 2 powertrain CAN buses. The regular CAN bus, or the regular powertrain CAN bus, and a redundant extra second powertrain CAN bus, which is only connected to the gear selector switch, the engine control module, and the transmission control module. Since the communication faults on that second powertrain CAN bus are common for 3 suspicious modules, I decided to take a look what's going on that CAN bus. Now, since the powertrain CAN bus 2 is not connected directly to the diagnostic socket, I can't use a breakout box. Instead, we have to measure on the CAN bus itself. Now, in this particular module, that powertrain CAN bus 2 is only connected to 3 modules: the gear selector switch, the engine control module, and the transmission control module. Now, the easiest way, in my opinion, to get to that CAN bus is to unbolt the gear selector switch and back probe that connector itself. This gear selector switch has both the normal powertrain CAN bus and the second powertrain CAN bus connected to it. Now the first 2 wires are for the normal powertrain CAN bus. So let's take a look at the scope, what's going on. And as you can see, nothing out of the ordinary there. Now let's take a look at the second wire of the powertrain CAN bus, and also nothing out of the ordinary. Now next to that is that second powertrain CAN bus we had our communication faults on. So let's hook up to that one. Let's give it some time. And again, nothing out of the ordinary. Now the other wire on that powertrain CAN bus 2, and as you can see, the communication looks normal. Well, I guess we're in trouble right now. The faults we had I cleared and they don't come back. The only lead we had, the powertrain CAN bus 2 communication fault, we checked out and there seems to be nothing wrong with that. So are we done? Well, not really. Remember, the scan tool told us that the fault codes were intermittent. Intermittent means the fault codes only act up every once in a while. But how can we reproduce the fault codes? Well, in this case, we might want to listen to our customer. The customer told us that when the fault codes act up, the car is hot, And when he lets it cool down besides the road and waits for a while, all the faults disappear. So what I want to do is leave this car running for a while, let it heat up, and retake our measurements. While the car is heating up, I have got a great announcement. We have got a winner for the Diagnose Dan Electrode Simulator Challenge. And the winner is Autel Mk808bt. Well, Raphael, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, probably not, but your name is also gonna be in the screen somewhere over here. You had a score of 29,864, and that's awesome. That might even be higher than my score. Damn, you're good, buddy. So well deserved. There's gonna be an email address in the description box of this video, so contact me and we'll hook you up with a year's access to the electrode training program. I'm also happy to announce we're doing another giveaway. In my next video, we'll be giving away one of these. This is the AutoSim Pro. It's the latest and greatest automotive signal generator on the market right now, and it's made by Ditex. This tool will simulate O2 sensors, MAP sensors, do voltage reference, all the good stuff that helps you diagnose cars faster and more accurate. If you're interested, all you have to do is leave a comment, and in my next video we'll pick a winner and send you one of these. There will also be a list of recommended resellers for this tool in the description box of this video. I will also leave a link in the description box of this video to where I got this little Autel from. If you follow the link, you will get an additional discount on a tool that was very cheap to begin with. Cheap, but very capable. When I was talking, in the meanwhile, this car was heating up. Now, when I walked past the window, I saw some interesting stuff going on the dash. So come on and let's have a look. As you can see, the car is warmed up right now. And look at all those messages. There's lights everywhere. Over there. On the screen over there. So I suggest we take another look at that second powertrain CAN bus. Now let's start off by measuring our known good powertrain CAN bus 1. One of the wires at least. Well, as you can see, everything perfect on that side. Now let's take another measurement of our suspicious powertrain CAN bus 2. And you see the voltages start to swing a little bit. It's not as tight as the known good, but nothing that is definitive yet. Now, I didn't see this before, so I do think we are on the right track. So let's heat the car up a little bit more and take another measurement. Now this case study is getting really crazy. All the footage you have seen so far was shot on Saturday. The car had been in the shop for a couple of days already, and I really needed to diagnose it. So I was thinking, let's do it on a Saturday. It's more quiet in the shop. I could make a video out of it. So we focused on that secondary powertrain CAN bus, but nothing happened. I left it running for 2 more hours, but absolutely no change. It was getting late. I had other stuff to do, so I called it a day. Right now it's Monday, and it's been a really busy day, and I left the car running outside the shop all day, and every hour or so I took a measurement, but nothing really happened. So I was thinking, maybe I'm wrong about this secondary powertrain CAN bus. and we should start focusing on something else. Now, I started the car up at 8 o'clock this morning, and right now it's 5 o'clock. I wanted to drive the car in to go home, and I took one more measurement. And let's have a look of what I just found. I just drove the car into the shop. It has been running for hours and hours and hours, and it's really not strange the other shops couldn't find anything wrong, because like 99% of the time there is nothing wrong with this car. Let's have a look at the regular powertrain CAN bus and see the beautiful signal. And now let's have a look at that second powertrain CAN bus and just look at the signal. Just take a look at the signal. That signal looks like poo. On this particular model, so not on all BMWs and not on all 3 Series, but on this particular model, the powertrain CAN bus 2 only runs to 3 modules: the gear selector, the engine computer, and the transmission control unit. Now in the next step, I want to do an unplug it test to see if the signal restores. And we're going to start at the gear selector. Let's disconnect that gear selector. And the gear selector is now disconnected from the network. And as you can see, we still have a bad signal. In the next step, we're going to disconnect the transmission control module. The transmission control module is within the transmission itself. The connector for that is quite high up, so I removed the support to lower the transmission for easier access. Now, the sound is going to be horrible because the car is running, because we want it hot. So I'm just going to disconnect and connect that connector while you guys take a look at the scope. Now, as you could see, that bad signal was clearly coming from within the transmission control unit. As soon as we unplugged it, the communication went back to normal. Now, just to have a little bit of fun and to be 100% sure we're not losing a power or ground as the car is heating up, which, by the way, I checked off camera, but just to have a little bit of fun, we're gonna do a little experiment. Over here, I've got a similar valve block laying around, which is owned by my buddy Sam of ATR Transmissions. Thank you, Sam. And on that valve block, we've got a transmission computer. Now, what I want to do is hook this up externally to our connector, and if there's nothing externally causing this bad signal, the signal will stay good as we hook up this transmission control module. This car is going to need a new transmission control module. Now, intermittent faults are the hardest faults to diagnose. You could see how the auto shop could have easily missed this fault, because 99% of the time this car is just fine. Sometimes you've got to go that extra mile. Talk to your customer, ask him, when does this fault appear? Does it appear when it's cold or hot, or when it's wet, or even when something is vibrating? Now, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel. When you hit the little bell, you will get a notification each time I post a new video. And remember, diagnose then, fixed it again. See you next time, guys. I'm also happy to announce we're doing another giveaway in my next video. We're giving away an AutoSim Pro, which is the latest and greatest signal generator made by Ditex. This signal generator has the latest feature. It will simulate sensors, do voltage reference, all the good stuff to help you diagnose cars faster and more accurate. So if you, fuck.